Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Coco Nomad channel where I talk about location and financial independence and try to give tips, tools, and just my journey, share what I've learned along the way to help anyone else who is trying to achieve the same. And this is my monthly fire report. So this is where I talk about my own journey to financial independence. I'm not so focused on the retire early part. It's just not something that I care about. I've done lots of mini retirements. I've taken plenty of time off in my life, so I'm good there. But I think the financial independence piece is something that I didn't really pay attention to because I was too busy enjoying life. And so it's time to correct that. So that's what I'm doing. And this is how I sort of keep track of how well I'm doing and how close I'm getting. So I always start this off with the streams report. So you can either watch my income streams video, which I'll link below to get more detail. But here I kind of give a brief overview. And here in those streams, I built 3 this year. The goal is to have 7 in 2022. I'll be actively working to build those and create those and grow those. And the work has already started. So I didn't want to wait until New Year's, like a resolution, to get started. And some of these things take time. So as you can see here, my monthly breakdown of the streams, so the 3 streams was my full-time income, generates about 68.3% of the total revenue for the month. And investing is second place with 27.4%, which has grown quite a bit in the last couple of months. And if you're interested in that, watch the investment reports and you'll see that grow over time and explain what I'm doing, the techniques that I'm using. And then consulting income is taking a back seat actually for the last couple of months. And there's a reason for that. It's just because we did a release to the App Store and we're trying to wait a little bit to do anything else. But so I didn't put a lot of hours in previously, but I have some things that I need to do for that app in the coming weeks. Actually, even now, this current week, moving forward. So probably the next 2 months, it'll jump up a bit. Whether it surpasses the investment income, though, remains to be seen. I don't think it will. I don't think it's ever going to eclipse that again, unless I were to do that full time. And even then, investment income is growing pretty rapidly. I don't know how sustainable that is right now. I'm still learning. So I hope to have a better idea probably by like February, March timeframe, see how that first quarter of next year does. And then I have a better idea of what the month to month with the investing side is doing. And, but it's okay. I mean, I'm very happy that something that is less active for me, that requires fewer hours, is generating more income for me. Not happy with how the portfolio is performing overall as far as the underlying stock prices. Not happy at all about that, but I will take the monthly income. So let's get into some of the metrics that I use. And I really key on 3 metrics that I think are very, very important for me and maybe other people who are on this journey. And then the first one is the savings rate. I really try to maintain a minimum of savings by percentage based on my income coming in per month. And the reason why I like that is I'm a person who has tons of spreadsheets. I track lots of numbers, but I don't really like budgeting. I've never really been a big fan of budgeting. I like tracking, but the budgeting really feels restrictive in a lot of ways. And yeah, I'm familiar with things like YNAB, where you have zero-based budgeting, you can move money around. But even with that, the tracking aspect to me was very appealing, but even just level setting to me, I don't like. So for me, I try to focus on the savings rate. So I can save a significant portion of money, or consistently portion of money every month, then I don't worry as much about the budget or where the other money's going, because I know it's kind of like the idea of pay yourself first. And I take that out and then I can use that money and make it work for me. So this month, my savings rate is 39.4%, which is down from about 45. I really would like to keep it at about 45. But in order to do that, probably needed to work more hours on the side projects to generate more income and get that number a bit higher, or spend a little less, which I think I will be doing in the next couple of months. I did have more expenses. I was traveling a bit, and I did have a more expensive apartment last couple of months in order to accommodate people to come and visit me here in Mexico. Which I'm not doing now. This is, as you can see behind this backdrop, which always changes. This is a 1-bedroom or studio, basically, and I love it, but it's a lot less expensive than what I had the previous months. And I, of course, had the travel expense of like buying plane tickets and going around to see family, things like that. So that definitely caused me to spend a bit more money, but I'm still above my 35% like bottom level threshold. So that's good. but I am going to be working next month to get that number back up to, over 40 to 45% is like my sweet spot right now. And that's where I'd like to be. Now, that moves us into the second area that I think is important and the second metric that I track, and that is the return on my investments. Because once I've saved that money, I need to put it to work, and I want that money to earn money for me. And so this month's monthly return is a whopping 18.6%. That is not common. That is not something I'm expecting to happen frequently. It's up from 6.4%, which I actually thought was going to be, was a little high. And I thought it was a bit, over, kind of expecting like 2.5% to 4% a month is kind of my target. But it's because of the type of trading I'm doing. It brings in a lot of premium. So the return on the capital is very high. The flip side of that, though, and I talk about this in my investment report, which I'll link below and you can check it out, is that the stocks are volatile. So the prices are going up and down, and now just down a lot. So that is the flip side of that, taking on that level of risk on the underlying stock. So it's bringing in the return in terms of the return percentage and premium, but not return in terms of like stock price and underlying capital gain. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments there to the strategy. This is honestly too high. This is like alarmingly too high for the return. And that's why I wanted to be transparent about why. If I'm at 2.5% to 4%, I probably would not have seen this type of downturn in the actual stock price. I mean, the market overall had turned down, but I think the previous contracts that we're doing were on companies that weren't moving in that direction because they were not as volatile, so they wouldn't move as much in either direction, which is fine. Which leaves me with the third and final metric that I track in terms of my three basic metrics, and that is runway. I like to know that if all of the income dried up, how long could I sustain myself? And that gives you an idea of how much time I have to kind of like right the ship and start generating some income in other ways, whether it's getting another job, finding other clients, finding some other avenues for revenue. And that one, I'm happy to say, is up this month. It's up to 5.7%. 5.7 months. This is measured in months, up from 3.3 months in October. So I've been able to take some of that money, save a little bit more, put it aside, and so build more of this runway so that if something bad happens, I can take care of myself for a while. And of course, the long-term goal is for this number to be just years and years and years. But it's part of the process. It's just the way that I like to have these sort of shorter term metrics that I can watch and stats so I can stay on track. Because in the past, I used to get lost in some of the longer term, bigger numbers like net worth. It just I didn't really connect with it. And these allow me to stay engaged and connect with what I'm doing on a monthly basis. So let's now look at what that means overall on my FIRE journey. So in terms of the FIRE journey where I am, I'm still in the category that I would consider stable. I'm not really, reaching these higher levels. And I do have a video where I talk about the levels of financial independence, so you can understand what that means. These things are in red, not because it's bad, it's just because it's associated with FIRE. But the most important areas are my FIRE progress is I'm 5.8% towards my FIRE goal. And that's up from 2.6%, which makes sense. Saving a bunch of money, and that money is not necessarily going into the investments. It's kind of just on the sideline being saved in cash, and it's affecting that. So it gives me a little bit more time in terms of being able to sustain any kind of, lack of income, but also taking me a little bit closer to reaching my overall FIRE number, which is that static number to reach and this is coast FIRE. My first goal is coast FIRE. But my time to standard FIRE is still at 5 years. I haven't really accelerated that at all. And I don't expect that number to really change anytime soon. Something could happen in the next year that number could, by the end of, or in another year, that number could come down significantly, maybe go down to like 3.5 or something like that. But right now it's at 5. It'll go down a little bit in the next few months, but probably not much. And I'm okay with that. It's just one of those like longer term metrics that I'm looking at. That's what I mean, like looking at something longer term versus these monthly things that I can connect to. But that 5.8%, steady improvement. I like it. And you got to maintain that, because that is actually based on a very conservative calculation that I do, where I raise the amount of monthly that I need, just like my runway. It's more than I actually spend, but I like to have a buffer in case something happens in those couple of months. And then also, I don't count all of my assets. In fact, I cut my investments in half because of what just happened. Like I've always used that stat where I'm just like 50% of whatever I have in these investment categories because it could be an economic downturn. And I just experienced that with some of the underlying stocks. So it's interesting to see how that came into play. And so, and that's how I like to look at things. But that is the current status of my FIRE journey in terms of my metrics and my numbers. As always, if you have any questions or comments, suggestions for other metrics, please drop a comment below. I'm more than happy to discuss these things. I love talking about it. I'm very new to this, but I'm also very excited about it and passionate about it. If you want to continue to watch videos like this, I really would appreciate a subscription or clicking the notification bell so you can get alerts when I drop new videos. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. And I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers.